Hello, welcome back to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. Today, I want to talk about power factions yet again and wars within wars and, the nestled factions and factions because some people still do not understand that, yes, there is a globalist power faction and it's a large power faction, but there are multiple factions nestled inside of that vying for control, and in those sub factions there are even more sub factions vying for control of the larger sub faction. Like, this is just how power dynamics work in a power structure system. Like, it's, you can go back all throughout history and see it. Like, French Revolution, how many different sub factions on the same side were vying for control at any given point? You have the same thing with the communists, even though it's a little bit more obvious in, say, the Russian Revolution or post Russian Revolution, when you have Stalin removing the sub factions and you can see them being erased through history from time. Very similar thing going on now in China with Xi eliminating sub factions that could potentially cause him issues, even though that's not going away. But I bring this up because there was one news story I didn't see anybody really pick up that was interesting to me, and I'm going to build off of that into other stories to reinforce, the my theory, even though it should just be, fact at this point, but it's definitive proof takes time, and while centuries of proof exists, it's just some people don't understand that you can apply the same, how would I put this? The same dynamics of, say, the French and American revolutions to today. Like, they think because today is a modern day that the social structures are radically different and have no applicability to each other. Human psychology is human psychology. Anyways, the first thing I wanted to talk about is that little story that I didn't see nobody talk about was Canada condemning Hong Kong for issuing warrants on some Canadians. They're dual citizen Canadians, as far as I can tell. And it's not so much Hong Kong as it's specifically the CCP using Hong Kong as a proxy. And the group that these Canadians are a part of is the Hong Kong Parliament. From what I'm able to tell, this Hong Kong Parliament very much looks like one of those government in exile groups that the CIA and other intel agencies like to set up when they're doing regime change operations, or other types of operations that you would need a government in exile front group for. I couldn't find out any direct funding. I mean, admittedly, I was not looking that hard, and like, most of it is in either, oh god, what is it? Is it, Jesus, Cantonese the mainland, and Mandarin is the I cannot remember which, or it's in like, not simplified Chinese, and like, translating Chinese, you legitimately need someone who understands both languages extremely well, which I do not. But besides the point, there's, obviously there is a alignment between, say, the liberal parties and the Chinese Communist Party to a certain extent. And this is where you have splintering factions of, on certain issues they are going to diverge. And the Canadian government, issues the condemnation from about the Hong Kong government, backed by the CCP, uh, ch- this of basically a worldwide arrest warrants, which, unless the United States is there saying backing them, worldwide arrest warrants really have no power for the most part. Like Interpol, yes, but again, that's like you've got the backing of power factions that control money, like serious amounts of money, and can break governments. So like it's a little bit different, and you've got intel ops. I don't think anything will come of these arrest warrants, but um it goes to illustrate just a little bit of fracturing because of they have to, at least for appearances, of Mark Carney coming out and condemning Hong Kong for this supposed pro-democracy group. Whether or not they are is irrelevant, um, at least to what I'm talking about. Again, I still think they're backed by some shadowy organizations, most likely NGOs that are then backed by intel operations. But because most of these, government and exile things end up being that, especially if they stick around for years, because most government and exiles legitimately um, are almost always used for political gain. Like if you look at what happened during the French Revolution, you have the I can't remember which Louis it was, and it was Marie Antoinette. At a certain point, they tried to escape. They to Austria, where they could then rally, Marie's brother or cousins, one of them, uh, you know, the king of Austria's, or was it Austria-Hungary, or was it the Holy Roman? Oh, jeez, European history is a shit show. Um, could rally those troops and then use them to, get rid of the revolutionaries, and now you have Louis and Marie back in power, and the world is right again. That's typically what happens. Like when you have governments in exile, they attempt to use some friendly state to return to power. In the modern day, though, as I have said before, they are typically backed by intel agencies, and they are aimed at regime change. Um, you could look at the Diem brothers in Vietnam. The what was it, in 2019 or 2018? The Red student led color revolution in Thailand. Um, the government official who was he was basically on the outs domestically, but he was backed by the NED, so he's backed by the CIA and the State Department. Um, aligned himself because he was had, and he tried to gain power, and I can't remember the how that ended, because COVID happened soon afterwards, and the world went to shit. So my memory is a little foggy about that specific one. You've got the Maidan coup in Ukraine that was, again, backed by multiple intel agencies. It wasn't just the CIA. The MI6 had some hands in it. I believe possibly Mossad. Um, I'm not entirely sure about the Mossad part, but typically, if one intel agency is getting involved, they're all getting involved. And like this story comes in tandem with Canada starting to target China with higher steel tariffs and to protect domestic steel production, because the tariffs on Canada from America are kind of having an impact to a certain extent. But we're also going through a recessionary environment, a deflationary recessionary environment. So, like, whether or not Donald Trump did tariffs, or tariffs became the new hotness to do, it, we were always going to have problems. That's just how things were going to play out. But again, it goes to show that you have these, while, say Mark Carney has some alignment with China, Brookfield's got some investments there and he's made some big money there, and you know he was an advisor to the Trudeau government, which was really cozy with the Chinese. It is. There are points where they will diverge. If I move on to just the bigger globalist faction, all right, and I split them up into three, we can go the EU, the UK, and Canada. These are just small factions of the bigger factions. And you look at the negotiations happening with Trump on tariffs, you would think they'd all be aligned, but Stammer was the first to fold. The UK gave in, like, boom, right away almost, fairly quickly, and they have a different deal. The EU has a different deal that just recently got announced, and it's not really a deal. It's a promise of, like, oh yeah, we'll totally buy more American shit, and we'll totally invest $600 billion. And what they get in return is basically nothing. It's great for America if it comes to fruition, but it's very much like um, the multiple deals that America, or that Donald Trump specifically, has had with China this year and in 2018. It's a framework for a deal they have agreed on, not an actual signed, here's the ironclad deal. It's like signing up. We've done the bulk of negotiations, but the devil's in the details, and we need to do the details at a later date. But then, you compare that to Canada, and while, again, Canada is extremely aligned with the globalist faction, Carney keeps repeating and trying to, I don't know if it's suppress or urge Canadians into a direction of aligning with specifically the EU more than the United States. It may just be, used to temper the 51st state rhetoric from the United States. But, he's very aligned with the EU. You would expect Canada to make similar deals along with the UK and EU, because Canada is a junior partner in the globalist relationship. Now, it may be that Canada is being used as a sacrificial lamb, so to speak, to see how well the globalists can poke the Americans, and specifically Donald Trump, before, most likely at this rate, again, with how Donald Trump is running his administration and making very obvious mistakes, by the way. You might get a return to Dem leadership. Again, I have said this multiple times. That's nothing new if you've been watching for a while. And then, everything snaps back to a certain degree, because like, you can look at Biden. Biden has an alignment with China, but he did not repeal any of the tariffs that Trump put in his, I think, last 2 years of office, his first term, with the Chinese. So he actually extended them, which is an interesting thing to point out. Again, like, you have these factions that are in alignment, but on certain issues they fracture. You have sub-factions in sub-factions. Like, reality with, whatever power faction you want to think of, it's more along the lines of, say, Game of Thrones. Everybody is trying to get ahead for themselves, for either their sub-faction or for themselves as their own tiniest faction. You can see this when Mark Carney was officially nominated. They tried to remove him from leadership. They had that short little leadership power struggle that he obviously won because he's still in power. Um, you can also see it in the Conservative Party of Canada with when Pierre was not able to win re-election in his seat. You saw Andrew Scheer be very coy about taking up leadership in the House and possibly not surrendering power. Which, to me, I say just let Andrew Scheer have another swing. Like, completely collapse that party. Like, I think all of the big parties need to collapse. The NDP is going through their own problems, but for financial reasons, because they no longer represent their base, so they're not getting the money they need. Um, Liberals, obviously, very easy. And the Conservatives, are the do nothing of nothings. Like, God, they do nothing. But even there, you can see the the knives come out at certain points to backstab and get further. You can look at the last conservative leadership race. Whole bunch of accusations of shady dealings on the behest of Pierre. Whether or not he did them, I don't think it's been proven. But it was not the most up and up election. Like, yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see these. You know, you can almost 100% map out power factions by watching the news and seeing who says what when. Okay, that's a key thing, and where they align and how often they align. Like, uh, down in the states, you're seeing, if you're paying close enough attention to American politics, specifically what's going on the left, you can see the power factions in the Democrat Party trying to figure out who they're going to push for the next nomination. You've got a faction that's like, well, maybe we can use Bernie. We definitely think we want to use AOC because she continually is getting pushed in that direction. But you can also see the California power faction, or one of the California power factions, uh, galvanizing behind Gavin Newsom and trying to push him for the next president. I'm still of the belief right now, um, if nothing major changes, it'll most likely be Newsom and AOC. Like, they want to win, so they're going to attempt to do what they did with Barack Obama, which is you put a radical there, but you have the nice, polished scumbag. Let's be real, that was Joe Biden was, to alleviate the fears of the extremely racist parts of your constituency. But then you also have the radical, and I think you'll have Newsom, AOC. AOC is the radical, and then you have the white scumbag, so that you can pacify again the racist vote in. Like, you get the far left agenda from the USAID created AOC, and you get that extreme left wing politics from from both of them, really. But like, you get a power broker who knows how to use power in Newsom. Like, you can't stay in power specifically and be as politically relevant as Gavin Newsom for as long as he has been without being fairly adept. He may not be the best, but he is fairly adept at the manipulations of power behind the scenes. And definitely corrupt as all hell. Definitely. But that's basically all politicians. There's a level of corruption that will just never go away from politics. I just think it should be publicized. Like, I don't care, to a certain degree, if a power faction is making money as long as the people, their constituency, the people of the country or state or province or wherever, are benefiting just as much or more. It's why I kind of like the Putin model to a certain extent. Like, there is a lot of corruption in Russia, but it is to the benefit of the people. And I don't mean like, the people are getting rich. It's the corruption benefits Russia as a whole. Again, not like corruption is parasitic, so it's always going to, be a net negative. But if it's there, like if you look at, say, the way Gazprom works, like it's the Russian gas giant with its own bank. Like, it's that big, it has its own bank. And they sell to the Europeans, even though the Europeans are, say, very anti-Russian, but the proceeds of the sale of gas has been funding the defense of Russia from the Western encroachment in Ukraine. Like, there are oligarchs that own Gazprom that are making billions and killing it, but it is also, shielding extremely high tax rates and massive bond sales in Russia to fund the war. Is it corruption? Is it grift? Absolutely. Is it helping the Russian people to a certain extent? Yes. I don't know how I got so off topic. And I will leave it there for you guys. I will see you tomorrow with something. I have no freaking clue at this point in time. I will figure that out. I have more news to read, more conclusions to draw, and more basically everything. Run myself ragged. No, I'm not going to do that. I will pay attention to some shady shit that's going on, though. Maybe I should talk about bricks and how that's just completely and utterly useless. We'll see. We will see. There are many important things going on in the world. Some of it interests me, most of it doesn't. Until tomorrow, have a good day.